Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the October 28, 2014 Richland School District 2 Board of Trustees meeting. We've just returned from executive session, and thank you very much for your patience and your presence on tonight. We're certainly glad to see so many of you here. At this time, we'll stand and have an inspirational moment and our Pledge of Allegiance. The reading is entitled, and it's very brief, it's entitled Full Assurance. It says, "The work which his goodness began, the arm of his strength will complete. His promise is yea and amen, and never was forfeited yet. Things future, nor things that are now, nor things below, nor above, can make him his purpose forego, or sever my soul from his love. For in all things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the current agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Manning, second by Ms. Spector. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Been moved by Dr. Fleming. So moved by Mrs. Anderson. I apologize. Ms. Anderson. Second by Ms. Spector. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is our special recognition. Dr. Ham.
Yes, I'm happy to call on Dr. Brenda Mack Foxworth. Oh, excuse me, I'm incorrect about that. Wrong part of the agenda. Teresa Riley, Dr. Teresa Riley will be doing our special recognitions.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Ham, staff, and members of our community, tonight we are once again calling on the proud staff of Forest Lake Eagle Expressions Literary Magazine. We invite teachers Donna Bass, Sarah Boone, Amber Davis, Heather Hansberry, Stephanie Henderson, Anna Snyder, and their principal, Dr. Cappy Steck, to come forward. The American Press Association has an annual magazine competition, and every year they are blown away by the outstanding publication that Forest Lake produces. This year, Eagle Expressions won first place and Best Elementary School Literary Magazine and Yearbook Combination. The magazine serves as the school's yearbook, and it includes a picture and writing sample from every student. Students also play a big role in the publication. The student staff helps design the cover, scan photographs, type the copy, and trace the artwork. Congratulations, Forest Lake, on this national recognition. Now I turn it back over.
First, I'd like to say that I'm honored to have the opportunity to chair the school board this year and work with my colleagues who are equally as passionate about education and public education specifically in our school district. And we each year, or each interim actually, interim of a term, like to present to my colleagues a certificate, a plaque which actually reads, "Richland School District 2 commends and thanks you for your dedicated service as a member of the Board of Trustees for this past term, which is dated today, October 28, 2014. So at this time, I'd like to bring these up and honor you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Brill, Dr. Johnson, and myself will get ours at a later time, I was informed. At this time, I want to take a moment of personal privilege to acknowledge one of our board members who is retiring, and this is his last board meeting. That's Dr. Bill Fleming. Dr. Fleming has been a member of our Richland School District 2 School Board of Trustees for 20 years. Got on the board in 1994. He served in every capacity and on the board, member to secretary to vice chair to chair, and on more than one occasion. Dr. Fleming, certainly as chairman of the board currently, I want to take this time to thank you for your outstanding service and for your commitment over the many years. Although you have a very successful dental practice and certainly could have found many times excuses not to come and participate or to be committed, I don't ever recall you doing that in your service to the students and teachers in our district by holding this board at the level of importance that made sure that you were here. Dr. Fleming, if you would come around from here, please. And his family is here with us tonight, his lovely wife and children and grandchildren and in-laws. So if you all would stand, give him a hand. Dr. Fleming and I have something in common, that's for sure. His faith and his family, strong family ties are very important to him as they are to me, and you can see by the presence of his family on tonight. Dr. Fleming, you have had a sharp eye for making sure that the district dollars were used and spent prudently, and you've overseen a tremendous explosive growth both in terms of students and schools during your tenure. You've been an advocate for students, and I want to thank you very much. So on behalf of the board and all of us who are here tonight for your 20 years of dedicated service. So if you'd like to come and say a few words, feel free to do so at this time. Family, you can take a seat if you like.
I don't want to mess anything up, Chip, so I'm going to get my notes here. Back to the audience. I tell you what, I'm going to sit at my desk.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine.
First of all, it's a wonderful surprise to see all my family here tonight. It's great. I'm very proud of each and every one of you. Thank you for supporting me. Mr. Chairman, Dr. Ham, and the fellow citizens of District 2, tonight I finish 20 years of service on this board and service to a school district, which has meant so much to me and my family. When I returned to Columbia in 1981, I wanted my children to be a part of a district in which the principal goals were to provide quality education to its students and to set aside any community agendas that would prevent that from happening. We could have lived anywhere. When we came back, we chose District 2 because of its vision, its leadership, and a great environment for students and family. That vision and leadership have been a key to phenomenal growth in the past 20 years with the support of a community dedicated to preserving a culture of excellence. Why have we been successful? How has the district maintained a culture of success? I believe there are several reasons. We have generated a system that demands our students have the best available teachers and administration. We have provided great facilities and a safe environment to teach and learn with community-supported bond referendums. Our school leadership has understood that students must be successful in academics the arts, and athletics, and provide these opportunities for each and all students. While we cannot guarantee success, we certainly have made those opportunities available. Please understand that our board is not always perfect, and we have made mistakes. But in the 20 years that I served, it was never agenda-driven. Decisions were made to elevate the opportunity for all children and give families as much choice as possible. I hope that the board will continue to understand that unless the whole succeeds, the parts will struggle and not remain true to its visions and goals. The biggest challenge I see is that this board continue its role as a chief policymaker to show leadership as a strong advocate for student performance and provide for the physical, little f, and the physical, little p, needs to support our policies. That in itself is a full-time commitment for any board member. We must resist the urge to delve into the day-to-day decisions of the district in the name of serving our constituents. We can best serve our families and constituents and students by doing our homework, seeking information, and showing leadership by making prudent and timely decisions. Remember, in 2014, families are moving into the district because of the same reasons we did 33 years ago. If District 2 is ever perceived as to not hiring the best, not providing the best, or not giving our best, that trend will end. On a personal note, I would like to thank the 17 board members that I served with and to the 3 superintendents who provided leadership and direction for the District 2. I will miss the school administrators, teachers, and students who allowed me to interrupt their classroom work on my periodic visits. I learned a lot from all who were part of this great 20-year experience in District 2. I will always consider you my family, remember you, and I'll pray for you. We have a lot to be thankful for. On behalf of my wife, Susan, my 4 children, and my 4 grandchildren, again, I say thank you and God bless you.
Again, Dr. Fleming, on behalf of the entire board, certainly want to thank you for your service to this entire district. At this time, there is a token of our appreciation that someone's going to unveil for us, please. Somebody, anyone? Come around and take a look at this. Dr. Fleming, if you and your lovely wife would come over and take a quick photo with the unveiling. Yes, if you could. This is something we hope you'll find a place for in your home and cherish. Picture of children and the importance of what we're all about here. They're at the front and center of what this is all about. So thank you again, Dr. Fleming and Susan. Okay, thank you. Sure. Okay. We can get some more after the meeting too. Sure, it'll be right there. Thank you very much. Before I take my seat and go back to the agenda, I noticed when I was standing, I want to recognize Representative Joe McKeechum, who's in our audience tonight. Representative McKeechum, would you stand and let's acknowledge your presence here? Thank you, sir. And so that I am protected, if there are any other elected officials in the audience who I don't see, if you'd like to stand, I'll certainly be happy to recognize you as well. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is student focus. Dr. Ham.
Our student focus tonight, this is the time that I need to talk about, that I need to introduce the principal of Ridgeview High School. So if she would please come forward, it's my pleasure to recognize Dr. Brenda Matt Foxworth, who will be introducing the students here that we're going to focus on this evening.
Good evening, Chairman Jackson, Dr. Ham, board members. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Ridgeview High School. And it is also my pleasure to introduce to you one of our phenomenal student leaders. This is Shyla Horton, student body president of Ridgeview High School, and she is going to lead our student focus presentation.
Right.
Shyla.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Shyla Horton, and I am Ridgeview High School student body president. If you haven't heard already, it is all at the View. Academics, activities, arts, and athletics. From the groundbreaking ceremony with Strom Thurmond 19 years ago, to our visits from Senator Tim Scott, and most recently, Attorney General Alan Wilson, Ridgeview has created a culture that not only maximizes our learning, but guarantees that we have opportunities to achieve excellence in academic knowledge, critical and creative thinking skills, and personal management that will help us become lifelong learners and responsible citizens. In addition to the Institute of Health Sciences, the Scholars Academy Magnet, AVID, also known as Advancement via Individual Determination, the School for the Arts, and Blazer Academy, we are able to take courses varying from college preparatory and honors to dual credit and advanced placement. But that's not all we enjoy about being a Ridgeview Blazer. We have a vast amount of student organizations, clubs, and athletic teams to help students show off their Blazer pride, as well as develop their leadership, communication, and critical thinking skills that are essential to becoming successful in this global society. Ridgeview really prides itself on that personalization that we attribute to our students. There's not enough time tonight to showcase everything we have accomplished in the 20 years that we have been open, but it is our pleasure to show off some of the amazing things we Blazers have accomplished. Please direct your attention to the video to be shown on the screen.
Are you ready to celebrate our victory tonight? It's time to celebrate. If you're sitting down, you gotta get up off your feet. Come on. Get up. Get up. Get Happy 20th birthday, Ridgeview. As one of the first students attending Ridgeview, I played football and was a member of student activities. I'm now happy to welcome you here as a member of the faculty. It's great to be here and celebrate milestones of achievement in this school community. From workhorses to thoroughbreds, our school's unique vision of putting students first has enabled continued success for such a diverse population. Join us now as we look at just a few of the accolades we have enjoyed over the past year.
As our school nurtures student ownership and the power of learning in the classroom, our students really embrace the idea that education is the most important tool you can use in order to change the world.
Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. This is at the heart of Ridgeview's academic mission, where the teachers ask the students to think and engages them in encouraging dialogues, constantly checking for understanding and growth.
As students, we are ready to learn at the next level, and we know that academic success is not new to the View.
supporting sports participation for young people is overwhelming.
It has the power to combat everything from racism to low self-image to the high school dropout rate. Student athletes are given greater responsibilities to maintain the sportsmanship values that build character and integrity on all levels.
Many have gone on to play college and professional sports while also recognizing the value of a strong educational foundation forged by the faculty of Richland. It allows us to celebrate athletic achievement at the end.
Essential part of our education here at Richland. From dance and music to theater and the visual arts, the arts give us a unique means of expression, capturing our passions and emotions, and allowing us to explore new ideas, subject matter, and cultures. The arts bring us joy in every aspect of our lives.
The arts programs here not only enhance students' understanding of the world around them, but it also broadens their perspective on traditional academics. The arts gives us the creativity to express ourselves while challenging our intellect. The arts integrate life and learning for all students and are integral in the development of the whole person.
Allowing students to engage in the creative process enables each of us to find joy and celebrate art's excellence at the view.
When you invest your time, you make a goal and decision of something that you want to accomplish, whether it's making good grades or making that catch. being a good person, or doing some community service. Whatever it is you choose to do, you're investing your time to make a difference. We represent the positive effects that a strong educational support system has to offer. We may not be perfect, but we're blazing a trail to get close. Make sure to join us this spring as we celebrate 20 years of Ridgeview's finest. Go Blazers.
We hope you enjoyed our video, and I would especially like to thank Miss Wendy Wimmer for creating it, because that was amazing. Now, yes, absolutely. So, for the rest of my little speech, I want to let you guys hear about my story here at The View. As you can see from that video, Ridgeview, in my opinion, though I am a tad biased, really is the complete package. For those of you who don't know, I'm an Army brat. My father has proudly served in the United States Army for 20 plus years, so that's been my life. Constant upheavals and moving. And the summer of my freshman year, my father was reassigned to Fort Jackson. So we packed up our lives in this tiny town in Alabama and moved here to this relatively large city in South Carolina. And when I say I knew no one, I knew no one. I didn't know anyone at Ridgeview, in the district. I didn't know anyone in the state. And that summer, I spent way too many hours watching Law & Order Special Victims Unit. But as soon as I stepped foot on this campus, I knew this place was going to be different. I have been to a ton of schools within different states and districts and areas, and I can tell you that Ridgeview is different. Ridgeview is unique, and Ridgeview was where I found my home. And for an Army brat, a military kid, that's all we look for. It's all we strive for to get out of our lives, you know? So when I felt that feeling of home and completion when I came on my first day, that was something big. And I can tell you I'm not the only one who feels that way. Ridgeview strives to make this place a community and a home for their students. I, 5 years ago, would have never thought that I would be speaking in front of this unsurmountable amount of, honorable people. And I would have never thought that I would be pushing myself to the limit academically, taking 9 AP courses. But I am. Wow. For now. No, I'm just kidding. But I am. I am. And I can tell you that I'm not the only kid doing that. You may think, and I know my parents think, that I'm unique and the brightest kid out there. But here at Ridgeview, I'm average. There are so many other kids who are doing exactly what I'm doing within these hallways. You can walk down a hall any time of the day, any day, and find an innumerable amount of students who are pushing themselves just like I am. And that's what's so amazing about Ridgeview, is because I'm average and I'm speaking in front of you. And there are so many other kids who could easily fill my spot. And that's why Ridgeview is the complete package. Because Ridgeview strives to make its students better and to make sure that we're trying to make ourselves better and our community better within the school and our community in the world. And that's what Ridgeview prides itself on. And that's why I call this place, and I'm proud to call this place, my home. And that's why I'm glad that we are striving to make it such a big community and a place for us to have that type of feeling that I have right now, speaking in front of you. And I hope that you're able to join us on May 22nd, 2015 to witness that community and that belonging that we have at The View at our Carousel of Excellence attraction on Friday, May 22nd, 2015. Again, we welcome you to Ridgeview High School, my home, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Yeah. Thank you. Right. But first, if you have any questions you would like to aim towards the student population, I will answer them to the best of my ability. So it's up to you.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No questions, just comment. Thank you for one of the probably most exciting student presentations that we've had in a while. Thank you for great video and your presentation. It was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. I can speak on the behalf of the school that there were many hands that went into play, and there are many people that I would love to thank, but the list would go on and on. So thank you for that. And I know that I'm speaking on their behalf, but I know they thank you as well.
Will the two young people standing with you introduce themselves and tell us who they are?
Hello, my name is Jacinda Hio, and I am a senior at Ridgeview High School.
Right.
I am part of the wonderful program Teacher Cadet.
Yes.
And I am hoping to be part of Richland too soon.
Fantastic. Yes, sir.
And my name is Michael Simmons, and I need to speak into this microphone.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fine, yeah.
I can hear you.
My name is Michael Simmons. I'm a senior here at Ridgeview High School, and the district has been wonderful for me. Moving out here in 2006, it was a wonderful thing because U District 2 is a blue ribbon school district, so it just made me feel at home ever since I've been here.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Anderson.
I would just like to add that I was on the naming committee to name Ridgeview High School.
Okay.
Under Sharon Button was a principal assigned to this school. And we did thorough searches and came up with the Ridgeview, the Blazers, and the colors. We went, oh God, there were so many different colors we discussed, but we ended up, I think Sharon Button was a favorite. Her favorite color was purple, if I'm not mistaken.
One of my favorite colors too, Ms. Anderson.
Well, that's why. But I just wanted to announce I would love to join you guys on the 22nd because it was a wonderful time to serve on that committee, and we met several times, and that's how Ridgeview High School got its name and the colors and their mascot.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you, folks, very much. Let's give them another round of applause, folks. And thank you very much, Dr. Mack. At this time, next on our agenda is our public participation. No one has signed up. However, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to come and address the board, you can feel free to do so at this time. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, we'll be voting on the executive session items. The chair will entertain a motion on student expulsion.
Mr. Chair, on student expulsion, only one student listed under there, I make a motion that we refer that child, allow that child to apply to adult education.
There's a motion moved to allow that student to apply to adult ed. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Manning. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is student appeals. The chair will entertain a motion on student appeals.
Mr. Chair, student number 1, refer to the IEP team at Blythewood Academy.
Second.
Let's go ahead and do them all.
Yeah, I'm gonna do them all.
Are you doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Student number 2, recommend Blythewood Academy. Student number 3, recommend Anna Boyd and Loredak. Student number 4, Anna Boyd. And student number 5, return to homeschool on strict probation with Loredak.
Been moved by Ms. Brill. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Anderson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, under old business action requested, Item 10.1, a proposal for Ridgeview Facilities Plan with a funding proposal. Dr. Ham.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Previously, we brought to you a proposal for the Ridgeview facilities. We now have a corresponding funding proposal. To present that information, we have Dr. Miley and Mr. Carter.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is actually the proposal we were going to give you on the 14th October, and I failed to change the date. So go to the next slide, please. Actually, I guess I can control that. Quickly review the top 10 from the Ridgeview team. Number 1 was the artificial turf on the competition field. I won't go through all of these. As you can see, this has been a pretty consistent top 10. I'll give you an update. We actually did, in fact, open the bids on the 16th for the artificial surface. It was a very successful bid. We continue to, we're about ready to put the bid documents together for the lights for the band lacrosse field. I do not believe that Brenda's had a chance to meet with the homeowners. Anyway, yeah, is that correct, Brenda? You have not met with the homeowners association yet? Our engineers and architect are continuing to do preliminary work on the auditorium and the media center. And now I'll turn over to Dr. Miley for the most important part.
Thank you, Jack. We're recommending that you fund this project $1.9 million out of general fund reserve balance, fund balance.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, I
Ms.
move
Anderson.
we allow them to take the 1.9 million from general funds.
Moved by Ms. Anderson that we authorize it.
Second.
That's been seconded by Dr. Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, new business action requested is policy 11.1, revision to the existing policy ADC and GBED at tobacco-free school, tobacco use by students. Dr. Ham.
We're requesting modifications of policies to update them, and Mr. Garrick will briefly highlight the change that we're making.
Ms. Garrett.
We currently have 3 policies for your review, and in each one of the policies, the change concerns alternative nicotine products, particularly e-cigarettes. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we go ahead and make the changes necessary in all 3 policies.
Moved by Ms. Anderson with the approval of the policies as presented. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Johnson. Any further discussion?
No.
I'm sorry, Ms. Spector. I'm sorry. Second by Ms. Spector. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, under new business, no action requested, report on the one-to-one computing. Dr. Ham.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, last year we completed the 3-year rollout of our one-to-one computing project, and this year we're reflecting on the accomplishments of that. We'd like to give you an update on one-to-one computing, so we've got Tom Cranmer and Donna Toiber to present that information.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ham. As Dr. Ham said, we just completed a 3-phase rollout of the one-to-one computing. And so this is the first year that we have not been involved in a major rollout. But to help set the context for the benefit of those that might not be familiar with our project, we just wanted to very, very quickly give you a background on how we got to where we are, and then update you on where we are today. First of all, you probably know that one-to-one computing is not new to Richland 2. Our first one-to-one computing class was in the classroom of the future at Killian Elementary School. This is a photo here of that 4th grade class, and they were really excited at that time to be the sort of the inaugural one-to-one official project in Richland too. And those students today are about 24 to 25 years old, and we believe that they very likely benefited from being in this early implementation of one-to-one computing. So it'd be nice to someday be able to bring some back to interview them. About that same time here at Ridgeview School, we had the E-School, which was a laptop program that was kind of cutting edge at the time. And the teacher of that class, Mr. Chuck Holland, is currently now one of our district level technology integration specialists. So we're proud of that. Following those projects, just to wrap up this quick history, is that we expanded from there with what was called the iTech project, which gradually over a period of about 10 years infused one-to-one computing into core content classrooms. And so through the year 2010, we gradually added computing until we had about 200 classrooms district-wide that were part of the iTech classroom. So this period of time here represents about a decade of your commitment to technology and investments in really modernizing what we do in our classrooms. And at that time, teachers were learning how to teach with technology, and the students were learning how to learn with technology. So what we did find, and you'll see in your report, that these were the digital natives, and they were quick to adopt all this. So moving forward, the technology climate in 2010 really set the stage for a mix of things going on that could really help us begin to look very seriously about expanding one-to-one computing. New devices were coming on the market. Lower per unit cost was making it affordable. Better telecommunications were making it workable. And the right mix and capacity and the desire of this district to do that made it doable. So in 2010, we created a steering committee that went out and studied, how as a district are we going to implement one-to-one computing on such a large scale. So that steering committee conducted site visits and other things, research, studies, and lots of meetings, subcommittees, looking at all the policies, practices, procedures, all that. And in August of 2011, you as a school board were presented with that plan, and you approved that plan in 2011. And then in the fall of that year, we moved right into pilot testing and device selections that went on that period of time. So the steering committee came forward with a plan about how we're going to do this, and to create equity across the district, we created a 3-phase plan. The first phase in January of 2012 rolled out about 7,000 computing devices to students in grades 5, 6, and about a third of high schools. And that third of high schools represents the early adopters, those teachers that stepped forward and wanted to volunteer for this program early. But that following August, we did another phase, another 7,000 devices. You see it there. And then we finished the project August 2013 with the final about 7,000 devices in 3rd grade, 8th grade, and the remainder of high school. At that time, we also added devices to 2nd grade classrooms, so now we have about a 4-to-1 ratio there. That represents about 5 devices in every 2nd grade class. In terms of how we're going to do this as a district, the plan was to add literally 22,000 devices to the district. So we had to conduct some network upgrades. We upgraded our Wi-Fi to support these large densities of computers. And since that time, we've upgraded our bandwidth for internet access 3 times. It's been tripled since that time. And I think that's important to recognize, because that really quantifies the level of usage that's taken place in terms of students accessing internet, high quality, rich internet resources to help their learning. So we're really proud of that. Some of the goals of the project were really developed through an extensive process of research, site visits, discussions, and studying national standards. And those standards are improved student learning, student engagement. We know that one-to-one computing helps make school more engaging and more relevant for our students, and it supports a meaningful, challenging work as part of the curriculum. It's a key part of the curriculum moving forward. 21st century skills, certainly one-to-one technology immersion helps ensure that our students today understand and are competent with 21st century skills, and will clearly help them be prepared to compete in this global knowledge-based economy. Project and problem-based learning is a part of the equation, and equity of access. And speaking of equity of access, bridging the digital divide was a really important part of this, and we're pleased that one-to-one computing provides the most dramatic gains, the most instantaneous dramatic gains in closing that digital divide. We know that some students had access to good equipment at home and some didn't. Well, this project really closes that digital divide. We're also working on a project to address the issues of students who may not have internet access at home. And last year we conducted a limited scope project to assign portable Wi-Fi hotspots to students, and they took those home, and they had great success in being able to access the internet. This year we're expanding that up to 100 families will be able to participate in that program. And we continue, and this second phase is partially grant funded, but we hope to continue to expand what we can do in terms of grant funding to expand the internet access for students that don't currently have that at home. So at this point, I want to introduce Donna Toiber, who is going to update us on the evaluation and some other topics that we've done as part of the one-to-one instructional side of things.
Good evening. I'll pick up where we left off with our one-to-one computing initiative. We know that there is a high relative advantage of having one-to-one computing for our students, and just going back to some of the research that we looked at in the beginning, we see that there should be significant gains related to improved writing skills, and I believe we're seeing some good benefit from writing with our students, gains in literacy skills and reading and digital literacy. We also know that one-to-one allows our students to show improvements in math and science, increase student engagement, as we mentioned, and the teacher behaviors, teachers becoming more the facilitator in the classroom as opposed to teaching from the front all of the time. So those are some of the advantages we knew about when we began with this initiative. In terms of measuring our outcomes, we've worked with the Getting to Outcomes team from the University of South Carolina, and they will have a final report for us later this year or early 2015. So we're just going to give you some preliminary information from our talks with the team and some of the things that we've done. We've had classroom observations ongoing for 2 school years. We've had focus groups with students and with teachers. We've also had yearly student, parent, and teacher surveys, and we are giving our 5th graders and our 8th graders the 21st Century Skills Assessment from learning.com, and we're seeing that our students are above the global average with those skills. We also have used a quality implementation tool with a checklist that was developed collaboratively with the Getting to Outcomes team to ensure that we have that continuous quality improvement going on in our schools. Some of the early results that we've seen from some of the reports that we've had, some of our informal reports, have been increased student engagement, especially at the middle school level. We've seen that our learning has become more personalized and collaborative. Looking at TPAC, that fit of technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge, teachers are saying that they think they're doing a pretty good job with that, and we're also seeing that in our observations. Teachers are satisfied or very satisfied with the professional learning opportunities they've received, and we're having, we have many more opportunities for our students to have those 21st century skills: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving. So the TPAC Fit, this is just one chart showing that teachers are fitting together the technology, the instructional strategies, and the content. So they're not just using technology for technology's sake, and they feel confident in how to use that. And this is slightly old data, but we're also seeing, after observations for 2 years, that we're seeing our teachers moving forward on the SAMR model. And SAMR, just a review, is substitution. That would be the lower level of using technology in a classroom, substituting it for traditional print material or other traditional material. Augmentation, where the technology brings some additional things to the table, maybe like a spell check in Word, something like that. And then modification, where you can do things you weren't able to do before, provide teachers, students with opportunities to use multimedia, audio, and video. And then the redefinition level, where they're doing things they could have never done before, like having a live hangout with a class in Canada, which we actually had happen just a few days ago. So it's very exciting to see those opportunities. And we've seen over the last 2 years that our teachers are progressing along that SAMR scale. More are moving into augmentation, and then there are others who have jumped ahead into modification and redefinition. And so we look at that and we see that our teachers are progressing and our students are having some really great learning experiences. When we go into classrooms, we see about 65% of the time for unannounced observations that students are using the technology, and it is important that students use the technology. If they weren't using the technology, that would mean perhaps something was wrong with the technology tools. So we know that teachers are learning how to use the technology with their students, and students are benefiting. And very little disruption, almost no disruption from infrastructure, the internet going down. Now, occasionally a kid will say, oh, it went down, and it'll be like for 2 seconds, but it'll be back up again. So we always say people remember that forever. But 99.9% of the time, the infrastructure is working and the students are getting their work done. Looking at teachers through the observation, we came up with this profile. Our Getting to Outcomes team sort of came up with this profile of the teachers who had made a lot of progress over 2 years. And things that were really important for those teachers to make progress were attitude, having a positive attitude about the experience, feeling like they could differentiate and make that classroom more student-centered. They felt like the IT fluency of their students was really important. They weren't afraid to ask their students for help. They actually enjoyed having their students help each other and show them how to do things. So they let go of a little bit of that control. They feel that the technology has enabled their planning and their instructional design to be strong, and they're able to give students some choice in how they learn material. And they also just feel very good about their classroom management. And we have seen that teachers typically say the technology makes managing the classroom easier. Professional learning has been ongoing. We have our technology and learning coaches delivering a lot more personalized learning now in the classroom, working with teachers on specific things that they need help with. And we're continuing to offer district workshops and courses, and we have a blend of online and face-to-face. Some things are blended with some online and then some face-to-face instruction for the course. And we're also seeing teachers going to conferences. We hold our SC Midland Summit, and we're planning our 4th annual summit. It's kind of hard to believe that it's been that long, but teachers are very excited about it. So professional learning quality is very good, and this data is a little bit old too, but we see that there are some quality dimensions of the professional development being delivered, and teachers feel that the technology instruction is tailored to their needs by their instructors. They feel that there's availability of support in their schools to help them if they need help. They enjoy having the technology coach work with them in that coaching environment. And they always want time for practice, of course, and but they feel that they're learning a lot. And of course, time is always something we could use more of in terms of planning that professional development. So our coaches this year, we've started a course, and our technology coaches are going through in different cohorts to get a more in-depth training on peer coaching and working with teachers on effectively integrating the technology. And so we've started our first group, and we'll begin with a second group in January. And that has made a lot of difference, having them have that opportunity to learn how to facilitate discussion with teachers about what's going on in the classroom and help them see how that technology can be integrated in the best way possible. So that hand-holding has been very important. And those teachers are becoming leaders and mentors to other teachers, which is what we need and we want. We have a lot of resources now, a lot of digital resources. That's been something that an unexpected, perhaps the number of resources that we have. There's so much out there, and we purchased some really great content, and we have a lot of good content to support our curriculum. So we do have a variety of things, but the Digital Starter Kit is something that was developed to ensure that teachers felt confident that there were some things that they could go to, you know, the go-to list of things. If I want to do a particular type of brainstorming with my students, here's a tool that might work for that. So we've had a lot of success with providing professional development for those tools. And this year, we're taking the leap. So this is our digital leap year. We've gotten fully implemented with technology rolled out. Except for our new teachers, most teachers have been teaching in a one-to-one environment for about a year. So we're really focusing this year on 4 things: leadership, expectations, continuing that anytime, anywhere access to learning, and having personalized learning for both our students and our teachers. In terms of the digital leadership, we're starting our 3rd year of digital leadership. Principals and assistant principals have monthly opportunities to learn about how technology can improve their learning environments in their school, how it can improve student learning, and they have been great about coming to those sessions, and they're tweeting all about it now, so they're doing a lot of great things this year with digital leadership. But we've looked at in depth how it fits in with the curriculum and what they should be seeing and expecting in classrooms. We also have expectations that our students will continue to take care of devices and that they will be responsible digital citizens, and we have a program in place for that. And we also have students who have really stepped up their game. We have high school students in all of our high schools who are part of the Tech Bar, and they help offer support to students and to teachers throughout the day. So the anytime, anywhere access, you may have seen this, kids are spilling outside of the classroom now. So they do have mobile devices, and they're able to spread out and find a place to work if they're working on a project. So it's nice to be able to see our students everywhere learning and engaged in the learning. And we also have that personalized learning for our teachers. So at many of our schools, as I said, the coaches are giving teachers personalized learning, and teachers are coming to learn about something that they know that they could benefit from and that they want to learn about. So our next steps, there are always next steps. We want to continue our leadership and support initiatives that we have here in the district. We want to continue communicating our expectations for the use of technology. We're going to try to publish more student work because that's something we'd like to see more of. Increasing our student collaboration. There are always opportunities for us to give our students more opportunities to collaborate face-to-face and online, to provide some more models and strategies for that flexible classroom environment, because sometimes it's a little difficult with desks to move things around and really understand how you can make it work in the space that you have, but we'll work with that. And showcasing the high advantage of the technology integration, letting our teachers become those change agents that they already are, and then moving towards blended learning, making sure that teachers know how to put content online so that students can access the content they need when they need it, and then have more time in class for some of the project-based learning going on. So we have a lot of steps to continue with. We're very excited about where we're going. The theme for the Midland Summit and for us this year is level up. We want everybody to level up on the SAMR model and think about some new ways that they can use technology that will benefit our students. And so at this time, we'll take any questions.
Questions or comments from the board?
Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot. I appreciate the digital citizenry part of what you do. I think that's critical for our students today to understand how to navigate living in the social media world that we're in. And Just kind of a funny story. My daughter, they told her you weren't supposed to use your email for things outside of school during class. So my wife emailed her when she first got her Chromebook and, just said, how are you doing, sweetie, whatever. And my daughter came home. My wife said, you didn't respond back to me. And she said, well, Mommy, we're not supposed to use them for communicating outside of the classroom. So it's certainly being effective. And I appreciate that. Also, I really like to see the piece. I think we have 100 Khajiit mobile units that went home to families that don't have internet. So I'm really happy to see we're starting to kind of make a dent in that area so that we have more equity for our families that don't have the same access. And I really like the study part of what you've done as well, the measurable outcomes. I think that's important, especially for as large a scale of rollout as we have. I think that data will be data that will be used nationally in other places. So I appreciate the model that you guys have set forth.
Thank you, Ms. Manning. Other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Dr. Fleming.
I know you're encouraging your students to write. How about your teachers? Do you encourage them to put their best practices and publish those types of things also? I know within the district, I'm sure you do, and in the schools themselves, but how about outside of the district?
We do. We've had many teachers are blogging and talking about the kinds of things that they're doing with students, because we, of course, do encourage them to model the things that they're asking of their students. So we're asking them to be collaborative and to share and to publish also. And many of them are doing that.
Other questions or comments on the board?
I had one question.
Ms. Brill?
I'm thinking that we really are the leader in this, if not in the Midlands, certainly. Is that your sense of that? I can't imagine anyone's ahead of us.
I would say, based on the number of visitors that we have coming from all over the country, I would probably say that's fairly accurate.
You make us very proud.
Questions or comments from the board? Additional? Tom, Madonna, question. I heard you mention that there are about 100 families that have access thanks to your being able to provide that assistance. Do you have an idea of the number of families in our district who don't have internet access in their homes?
We have surveyed our students, and actually we do have a map showing where students live who don't have access, and we'll be updating that with our latest numbers from our last survey. So we do have a sense of those areas where there maybe is a higher concentration of families who don't have access, and we're right now rolling the 100 out. We haven't rolled them all out, we just received them, so we're excited to try to make an impact and think about how to go bigger with that.
Another question, the evaluation that's going to be coming to us in January, is it going to show sort of how we move to the integration of the one-to-one in the actual subject areas and across curriculums? I mean, is it going to be that in depth?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen the latest document that they're working on. There are a lot of opportunities to dig deeper with some of the data that we have. So we do have all the raw data. So I believe once we get the report, if there's something we still want to look at, that we could do that.
And then the last question, in terms of teacher competence, able to gauge that? Is that a part of the evaluation, or is that something that can be judged later in terms of, I heard you talk about teacher competence. I guess I'm asking about teacher competence versus competence in terms of how well they're actually utilizing it and making sure that children or the students in the classroom are learning as well.
Yes, we've had the 2 years of the classroom observations, and that was random. Some were the teachers were observed 2 years in a row. So we have seen growth there, and we'll be continuing with walkthroughs this year to gather more data that we can look at. So we are actually going in the classrooms, and we're encouraging our administrators to also go in classrooms and look at how technology is being used.
The coaches are going as well?
Yes, the coaches are. They're going on walkthroughs, and they work with the teachers.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the board?
Chair, just one more question.
Yes, Mr. Manning.
One of the things that I've heard from some of our parents, particularly those that are involved with students involved heavily with extracurricular activities, is that they have the devices, but they don't have internet access. So even though they may have it at home and at school, but whereas maybe they were on the bus before and they could read a book, if it's all online, they don't have that access. And so I don't know if y'all are addressing that or if that's come to your attention, but I think it is an area that we need to look at.
I think there are some functionalities that can take place on the devices off off network, and we're seeing those capabilities increase as for example, as Chromebooks become more developed along their operating systems. So, but as far as at-large internet access, certainly we would love to see more of that. And so we do know that the push from the federal level to try to create more at-large Wi-Fi areas that are available to the public, but we're just not quite there yet. But the students know where many of those free spots are, and they do many times take advantage of those.
Yeah, and I understand that, but there's sometimes, athletic fields you may not be where, sometimes they have weekend events that they may not have access. Whereas when they had books, they could sit down and do it if it's digital and it can't be cached. Just something for us to look at.
And I think one possibility there is to expand our coverage outside the buildings on the school campus.
Right.
That's certainly doable, but by putting exterior antennas on the school to pick up some of those areas where students are engaged in activities, and that's something we can certainly look at.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions, comments from the board? Thank you very much, Donna. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is our data snapshot report. Dr. Ham?
As you know, we periodically give the board an updated snapshot of standardized test data, financial data, certain demographic data. And since we last reported you, we've gotten several new data sources. So we're going to actually try to do two things this evening. One is Mr. Potts is going to give you information about the updated data. But whenever you get information, you want to think about how we're going to use that to continuously improve what we do. So Nancy Gregory, Keith Price, and Baron Davis are going to tell you a little bit about what we do to use the data to improve our performance.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight we present you with an updated board snapshot. It includes some of the recent updates from the fall regarding end-of-course exams, SAT scores, and AP scores. I also included in your board packet some of the recent updates that we sent to you. And I also included the ESA federal letter grades, a summary for the schools. In addition to the snapshot, I also included on there some live enrollment data. I know one of the questions that had come up recently is, can we gather information about our students, such as the number of students that are in the district? And to kind of accommodate this, maybe in the short term, we're going to list the board snapshots on a weekly basis on the Richland 2 website. It's going to be in the quick links portal at the very top on the Richland 2 website. It'll be next to the fiscal snapshot, annual report, and district beliefs. At this time, I'll allow Ms. Nancy Gregory to come up and talk through some of the accommodations regarding the assessments.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
What we'd like to point out to you are just some commendations from the recent scores, starting with the end-of-course tests. District scores are above the state average in Algebra 1, Biology 1, and U.S. History, with increases in all from the previous year. If you'll note those on the next slide. On SAT scores, all of our high schools had double-digit increases on SAT composite scores. 2 of the high schools scored above the state average for public schools, and 1 scored above the national public school average. The district as a whole increased 4 points overall from the 2013 average, which you'll note in this slide. As for AP exams, on AP exams, our Richland 2 students remain above the state and national average for students earning a 3 or higher, and the total number of students taking an AP exam has risen by more than 30% since 2010. At one of our earlier board meetings, we shared strategies underway from the Teaching and Learning Department. In addition, our department is meeting with the assistant superintendents monthly to align support for schools as we analyze multiple sources of data. And I am going to show that slide just real quickly on the AP exams. And again, as I mentioned, we are working with the assistant superintendents monthly to analyze the data to support our schools. And Dr. Barron Davis and Keith Price are going to come forward and talk to you about leadership for the data-informed principal.
Good evening. So 2 of the priorities of the 9 priorities that we were charged with for the start of the school year focus on data literacy as a district, and one also focuses on leadership. And in our new position as assistant superintendents for schools, our primary focus is on the leadership within the school building. And so we wanted to start with a little bit about data literacy and leadership for the data-informed principal. Where leadership begins as far as evaluation or the observations of our principals, there are 9 focus areas that we look at when working with our school principals. And as you can see, they range from vision to climate to interpersonal skills. And the last one, which would be the focus of this presentation, is the principal's professional development and how the principals are using data that they're receiving to move their schools forward. So in the principal's professional development plan, we focus on the professional growth as a school leader. And we like to align the district and school's priorities, goals, and missions, visions, and values, etc. We align this to our 4 squares, which is an instructional goal. Each principal is required in his or her professional development plan, personal professional development plan, to write an instructional goal, to write a character goal for the development, a community goal, and also to have a joy goal. The goals that we're focused on this year have to be SMART goals. And essentially a SMART goal is that it has to be specific, which means it also needs to be very specific of what they would like to accomplish. It needs to be measurable. We need to be able to determine how or whether or not they achieved the goal, and that leads to the third part of the SMART goal. It needs to be achievable. That means it needs to be a stretch goal, but it doesn't need to be a goal that's impossible to achieve. It needs to be relevant, so it needs to be tied specifically to their school and to their development as a principal. So principals may be in their first year versus being in their 20th year. Their goals should be relevant to what they need as far as their professional development is concerned. And it also needs to be time-bound. It needs to have a date or time or when this goal will be accomplished. And specifically, the time has been given pretty much at the end of the school year. So our areas of focus for the goals, we want relevant data points to consider. And some of those relevant data points are district data, the school data, teacher data, and student data. Things like student achievement, student discipline, culture and climate data. We get surveys about our culture and climate. Student-teacher attendance rates is also a data point to consider. And grade distribution within a particular school, within a particular subject, or a teacher's classroom are also some relevant data points for us to consider.
As Shiloh so eloquently stated earlier, that academic data points are just one part of what makes up Ridgeview, but it's not the whole story. We also know that you've got to, in any school, you've got to add in the element of the arts, the activities that the students get involved with, and then at the middle and high school level, you also have athletics. So while it's not the whole story, it tells part of the story for what makes up a school. And this past summer, Dr. Davis and I and Jeff Potts, we sat down and we came up with a list of data points that we thought would be good discussion topics for us to have with our principals throughout the year. As that information rolled into us, to have strategic and specific conversations about things that are coming in and how we can use that information. These data points help spark discussion that can lead to strategic plans for addressing things that they see that may need some improvement, but it also validates the work that they're doing, and they can specifically see the areas where they're improving. Some of the data points that Dr. Davis mentioned are not just about academic pieces. You see other things in there about attendance, teacher retention, discipline and behavior. As Nancy mentioned earlier, one of the great things about our AP scores, not only are our AP scores trending upward, but the important part is that we have an increase of 30% of our students that are now enrolled in AP courses. So, and that's where we have those discussions about what's more important. If you have fewer students taking AP scores, you can keep your AP performance really high. But strategically, you want to have as many students as possible exposed to those high rigor courses. We have created a list of data points, and Jeff Potts and Corey Jimenez have pulled together and helped create data notebooks for every one of our schools. And as we meet with our principals throughout the year, we'll have mid-year review meetings and end-of-year review meetings to talk about the things that are in these books, to look for trends that we may see, to look for things that are working well, and to also identify things that we may need to give some extra attention to. Tony, if you could you click on that link that says data sites? It's just the sign-in page. While he's pulling that up, the data sites that Jeff and his team have now created takes all of the information that are in these books. Oh, Tony doesn't have permission. We'll have to give you permission, Tony. Sorry about that. It takes all the information that's in these books and it makes it available to all of our principals. So as soon as it comes into Jeff's office, they can instantly update the sites and the principals have access to it. In addition to each school's specific data, they also have the district-wide data, so they can do comparisons to look to see how they're performing compared with other schools throughout Richland too. And again, as we've said before, these help lead to very specific strategic discussions about things that we see that tell this part of the picture of each one of our schools. What's next? What we're looking at doing is providing workshops for our principals. Some are very familiar with data and they digest it as soon as it comes in, and others are looking for ways to use it more effectively. So what we're looking at doing is providing workshops for groups of our principals' levels, elementary level versus middle school data. Sometimes those are different. And individual sessions about how to effectively use the information that we get back. As I mentioned before, identify strengths and weaknesses and identify points that we can focus on. This leads to results in their strategic plans that they work on for their schools and also for their individual personal professional development plans that Dr. Davis mentioned earlier. That concludes our presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Dr. Johnson.
Well, I had one from Mr. Price, but he just answered that towards the end because I was going to ask him what type of training were they going to provide for the principals, but he answered that. So Mr. Davis, Dr. Davis, going back to you, I know you talked about the 4 squares and that on the development of the principals, one of the categories was joy, and they had to measure joy in their schools. Can you tell me what does that look like and how do we measure that?
Well, the principals have a choice to either write a joy goal specifically for them or a joy goal specifically for their school. What many of the principals have decided to do is write a joy goal for their school, and what that would basically go back to the culture and climate survey that the State Department that we do every year, and we'll set a goal to increase maybe teachers' perception, teacher morale. It may be a goal to institute some sort of teacher recognition program each and every week, or a student recognition program, basically some sort of initiative or some program that it will put in place to increase morale, participation, engagement. Anything will be positive in nature, maybe their commitment to being more outspoken in the community, or being part of the community, bringing the community within, anything to increase the joy level of that goal. That is actually one of the more challenging goals that we found that they had to write, but many of them did an outstanding job of writing that goal and making it measurable for them. And a lot of them we just went back to the culture and climate survey, and it's simply just to improve perception or morale of the environment for learning. And then also it could focus on the students, because the students have a section in that climate and culture survey, the teachers have a section in the climate survey, as well as the parents have a section in that climate survey.
I guess I'm still confused. How do you measure that? Tell me what is going to be the rubrics for you to measure the goal, the joy?
Well, there is no rubric to measure goal. As I said, that's probably one of the more challenging ones, but it's simply where you would set a goal. It may be to set a goal to improve teacher morale or perception of the learning environment by 10%. So if 70% of the teachers said that found the learning environment to be a healthy learning environment, the goal or the objective is to improve it by 10%. So at the end of the year, if that gets to 80%, then that's something that's measurable, is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant to their environment for learning, and it's also something that's time bound. So that would be classified as something that would be placed under the joy goal.
So that would give them joy. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I'm clear. So if they met the goal of 80%, then the joy rate goes up.
Well, the joy or the perception of the classroom, no, I don't know if what you want me to say is yes or no. I simply is saying that it does increase morale in the building, and if morale is increased and engagement seems to be high, if engagement is high, then we can make a reasonable leap that students are happy and teachers are happy, and so the joy level in the school increases.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Other questions, comments on the board?
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Fleming.
Maybe our statistician can answer this. I know that the SAT and the ACT are predictors, supposedly predictors of success later on. Is the same thing can be said of the advanced placement tests that we take? Is there any idea about that? Is that a predictor? Also, a predictor of success, let's say in college success, which is what it's for, really.
Predictor of success, well, it is essentially a college level course. Mm-hmm. So I think if your students are able to perform well in a college level course, even in a high school environment, I don't necessarily know what a predicted value would be, but I think that's good for the student.
Do they use that in colleges when they apply? Okay, they use that as part of their assessment.
Yeah.
Like the ACT, that's my call. Now, the second question was that you have more people taking the test. It's maybe a little percentage of passing the test is lower. Are more people, even though it's a lower percentage, are more people passing the test, or are more people passing more tests?
There's more people passing more tests.
Okay, that's what I want. Because it's hard for me to figure it out with this. That's why I asked the question. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fleming. Other questions, comments on the board?
Just one other comment. I want to particularly note our dropout rate from 2009-10 to 2013 has significantly improved from 2.8% in 09-010 to 1.6% this year. So I want to take particular note of that that data point that you did not mention in your presentation, but is on our sheet. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments on the board? Question. I was looking at the same issue that Dr. Fleming was looking at, and to me it looked like we were doing sort of a downward trend on AP scores, even though we increased the number of kids who took it from 950 to 1,023. The percentage of those who made a 3 above went from a 68% to 64%. So help me understand how that's an upward trend and not a downward trend. I'm sure it's just me.
Well, it is in terms of percent of students that are passing, it is a downward trend. However, there are more students taking it and more students passing. So there's despite the fact that it's the increase in the percent of in the number of students who are taking it versus the increase in the number who are passing it is slightly lower than what it was previously, but there is still more in both.
Thank you. The other question, I guess, Jeff, is that we talked about this wonderful format here, and we also talked about giving it to us back in the booklet form that we got before. So I hope we'll make sure we get that, because that's a little easier for me to go through, I'm sure, and to look at, particularly as it is a comparison with middle school and other grades at a grade level, so we can see sort of the trend for ourselves. I think what you've done here sort of said the average of those that made a meet or exceed, but I'd like to see sort of the trend in terms of where we were the year before as we used to do it, and then how we compare to the state and the state averages. I think that would be helpful. So if we could, this is fine, but if we could go back to providing that data, I would really appreciate that. Sure. Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments on the board? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next on our agenda is a report on the first quarter financial statement. Dr. Ham?
Yes, you received the first quarter financial statement in your packet. Dr. Miley is available if you have any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you very much, Dr. Miley.
Thank you.
Well, that's only because we asked our questions earlier.
Exactly.
So I don't want you guys to think we didn't have questions.
That's exactly
we
right.
asked questions earlier in the executive session, so.
Thank you very much, Dr.
We did
Johnson.
have questions.
Thank you, absolutely. Next is a report on the Gear Up grant. Dr. Ham.
Dr. Bakutis is going to give us a report on the new Gear Up grant. Our last Gear Up grant was enormously successful. We are so excited to get another one, and she'll tell you about the grant.
Yes, so I have a report on joy, we would say, right? We did find out in September that we received the new Gear Up grant. It is a 7-year grant, and the total is $9.6 million. And it is another district consortium grant. As you recall, we've worked with Lawrence 55 and 56 on the CAT grant, and they were interested in partnering. Steve Wilson, who is a superintendent from Calhoun County, actually called and asked if he could also join us on the grant. And so we actually started back in 2013 in doing some research and writing the grant. If you recall, it is through a cohort of students, and the grant follows those students. It starts actually with the 7th graders, and compared to the other grant, we did not have E.L. Wright in the 2008 grant. But with this one, we do have Dent, Longleaf, Summit Parkway, and as well as E.L. Wright. We will be serving 1,268 students. With Calhoun County, they are only serving 133. And with Lawrence County, the total, they will be serving 635. And as you recall, Gear Up is a grant that is supposed to significantly increase the number of low-income students who are prepared to enter and succeed in post-secondary education. This is really a passion that I have because I am a first-generation college student, and in looking at all of the activities related to the grant, we know from the other grant it is very, very successful. And it actually aligns with district priorities as well. If you recall, priority 4 relates to middle school success, and we are starting with the 7th graders and, of course, moving up into the 8th grade. It also aligns with number 6, which is using the data to improve teaching and learning, because we do have professional development in there, as well as services for students. And I know that you were very pleased to hear about the mobile internet devices, the 100. We actually did write 25 more into this proposal because we do recognize that that is a need for our students. Right. And if we are looking at the design, I told you we started in 2013. What we tried to do was include the requirements of the application, but to really look at those research-based strategies that were most applicable for our lower income students. And over we heard about the strong collaborative component. With this grant, we will have, of course, a project director and a bookkeeper, but each middle school will receive a college support specialist. It will be that person's responsibility to make sure that there is a strong communication plan with the parents. The parents will be allowed to attend workshops with the students. If you've ever filled out a FAFSA form for your students to attend college or your grandchildren, it can be very inundating. And so we're going to be doing lots of workshops on that. We're also encouraging parents to attend, to go on the college campus visits, which is very important, especially for a parent who's never really had that perspective of sitting in a college classroom and experiencing the rigor of a college course.
More importantly, at the school level, we found that leadership is critical to establish that college-going culture. I know that there are several schools here who have already done that. They've put placards outside the teacher's door saying, I'm a University of Tennessee graduate or a Clemson or a Carolina graduate. That's just established the college-going culture. And it reminds the students that they are expected to continue on to college. And of course, the high expectations is set. And in terms of research, we know that that starts at the top with the administrative team working collaboratively, with the teachers. In the classroom, rigor is of utmost importance. I know we were just talking about the experience of taking an AP course. Absolutely, the rigor is there, and we want to encourage students especially to register for those classes. We did lots of research on Marzano and Dan Pink about keeping the students engaged. If you can find that passion that the student has, you hook them and they will feel successful and they will be successful. And of course, it needs to be standards driven. We also included a body of research from Dr. Carol Dweck, who has done research for the past 10 plus years out of Stanford University on mindset. And she looked at the difference between the fixed mindset of looking at attitudes that are already present as opposed to growth mindset of where you can encourage other people to feel that they can, with effort and with persistence, go on and be successful. And so we have included funding for that. It is a program called Mind Works, and it's just to encourage the student to gain those qualities of perseverance and resilience. And lastly, in looking at those research-based strategies, the community is so important. With this grant, we had 25 partners to sign on. We had churches, we had, of course, post-secondary education institutions. We had lots of businesses who really wanted to sign on and say that they would mentor an at-risk student or a group of students. They're offering their facilities in churches sometimes where we could go in and do workshops on a financial night. We had banks who actually said that they would come in and do the workshops free of charge on financial literacy. So that is a very exciting part of the grant. Lastly, I have a quote that I would like to share with you. It's actually by Carol Dweck, and it states, I have always been deeply moved by outstanding achievement, but saddened by wasted potential. And that's what the Gear Up Grant is all about. We encourage our students to work to the best of their ability, but I truly do believe with the Gear Up Grant that will encourage them to work beyond the potential that they don't even know that they have yet. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Manning.
I think the Gear Up Grant's fantastic. I think every graduation this last year we had principals and other folks stand up and talk about it. I guess going back to sort of the high school, I know this is at middle school, sets a fantastic foundation for our students, but how do we have the opportunity to bring Gear Up back to our high schools?
Well, next year it will be in the 8th grade, and then it will go on to the 9th grade. So that's when it will start, because it does follow the cohort of students who are 7th graders right now.
I got you. So it starts in middle and then moves its way up through. Okay, thank you.
That is right. And Sabrina Suber is very happy to hear that because she wanted to know how she could get in on the grant. It does follow that one cohort of students. So I remember it was been 6 years ago whenever we got the first Gear Up grant. It is a wonderful year to be a 7th grader in Richland School District 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Brill?
How do you choose the students? Do they have to be interviewed? Or, I know certain criterion, but it seems like it's something every student would want.
And I certainly agree with you, Mrs. Brill. The criteria for choosing the 4 schools in the district who are participating, they do have to have a 50% free and reduced lunch rate. And then every 7th grader will receive those benefits. Every student receives benefits. We are partnering with the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Columbia to target certain students who may need a bit more help than others. But overall, it will be for those 7th grade students, whether they're in a magnet program at that school or whether they are an A student. It's for all of the students in that grade level, and it moves up annually.
Thank you. Mrs. Anderson?
2 things. If a student moves into the district that does not start out in the 7th grade, they are allowed to be a part of the Gear Up program because it's at their school, correct?
Absolutely.
My next question is, the teachers that we had in the Gear Up program last year, are we going to give them the first opportunities to go to these 4 schools with the Gear Up program since they're already experienced with the program? Or how are we working that?
Do you mean the Gear Up coordinators?
The Gear Up coordinators.
I think that most of them have moved on to other positions, either in the district or outside of the district. So we are in the process now of hiring for this new program. We will be interviewing for the project director as well as those 4, they're called college support specialists. So we will, by law, we are required to interview for those positions.
But given the fact that you are required to interview for those positions, but because we had some very good, experienced coordinators already in the last Gear Up program, wouldn't we sort of seek those people out since they were doing such a wonderful job versus hiring someone that we have to train?
Well, and I do...
maybe you're not the one to answer that. I'm not sure who should answer that question. I don't want to put you on the spot, please. That's not what I'm seeking, but I just know that we have some excellent people who were leading that Gear Up program in their schools, and I just would like to see some of those people we move back into that area. Maybe, is that something you would answer, Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Anderson, we will advertise if, as Dr. Bakuda said, those folks are in other positions. Now, if they choose to apply, they will have an opportunity to interview. But currently, they are in other positions. So it would be up to them whether they wanted to
reapply.
Pursue, yeah.
And I would just like to add, I would absolutely agree wholeheartedly with you that the Gear Up staff for that last Gear Up, they were amazing. They were the reasons why that grant was so successful. As with most grants, it's only as successful as the project director and the staff.
So we will make it well known so they will have the opportunity to apply for those positions back. Okay.
Other questions or comments from the board? Dr. Bakuda's quick question. Tell me real quickly, if you can, about the evaluation process. How is that going to happen? I mean, when is that going to happen, and sort of what schedule is that going to happen on? And obviously, we're not going to wait until 2021 to do it, I'm assuming.
No, and you are absolutely correct. There is an annual evaluation, an APR report that is submitted to the U.S. Department of Education. We have hired an external evaluator, which is a requirement of the grant, but it will be a report done annually.
And of course, you'll share that with the board.
Absolutely,
Okay.
be happy to. And I really would like during December, if it pleases the board, to have some of those Gear Up students who are now in their first year of college to come and perhaps address the board at that time.
One other quick question. Obviously, this is going to be a little different than the last one since it's starting at the middle school. And so I'm just kind of curious, even though you'll be doing an evaluation each year, one evaluation will be in the middle school, and a couple of years from now, that same evaluation will be done at the high school level. So will we be doing simultaneous evaluations of all the grade levels at one time, or how's that going to be done?
Actually, following the cohort of students, it would be looking at achievement over time, very similar to what Mr. Potts shared with you, looking at AP scores, looking at just progress.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions, comments from the board? Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Bacuse. Next on the agenda is the agenda items for the November 11th board meeting, which will be held at Polo Road Elementary. Dr. Ham?
On November 11th at 4:30, we'll have a new member installation ceremony for our newly elected board members. On the agenda for the meeting itself is a faculty focus, and we'll be discussing our new reading coaches that we received with state funding for those positions as part of the Read to Succeed Act. We'll have a report from the Discipline Task Force. This is just an update and part of our effort to keep you informed of progress we're making on each of the 9 goals that we have. We'll have a report on the Innovation Incubator, the new projects for this year from the incubator, a proposal for the calendar for school year 15-16, and an update on Ridgeview facilities.
Thank you. Are there any other items that the board members would like to add to the November 11th board?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Anderson.
I would like for us to review some of the high school rules and regulations. For example, the tardy policy, how each school, particularly the high schools, are handling tardies. I was at a meeting on Sunday with Mr. Manning, and that was one of the main questions that was not one of the main, well, it was. Because our schools are not all together on how their disciplinary procedures are and what is considered tardy. I think the policy states that a student must be in class, in seat, by the time the bell rings. And I personally think, along with some other parents who presented this, that if a child is right at the door and the bell rings, it's not academically smart to put a child out of the classroom for the entire day for being a few seconds late, so they end up going to, is it in-school suspension or whatever the acronym is for that, for the remainder of the day. So if they miss, they're late, a few seconds, the door closes, they're walking in the door, the bell rings, they have to go and spend the entire day, and they're losing all of this seat time in those classrooms. So that's one policy that I would like for us to look at.
Thank you.
And also, I would like for us to look at uniformity throughout our high schools, i.e., I think Dr. Elkson Johnson has mentioned this before, the parking tickets are inconsistent, things of that sort. So you have a drift of what I'm seeking to do here.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Other requests for the board?
Mr. Chair, one
Manning.
comment on the school calendar. I would like a proposal where there are no half days, rather more full days. I think that our half days are disruptive to parents, and even some teachers have commented to me that they feel like they can make better use out of full days instead of half days and better education. So I would like to see that as one of the proposals that would come to us.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Other requests from the board? Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is our second public participation session. No one has signed up for it. However, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the board, you can come to the microphone and do so at this time. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is our board and superintendent comments. Start with you, Dr. Elkson Johnson.
Just a few, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to recognize Representative Mia Butler, who's in the back. I think she came in later when you recognize public officials, so it's good to see Representative Butler here. Also, it's very exciting for me to see my husband here tonight. Okay. So he's a bright light, joy for me, so it's good to see him here. Also, I'd like to say to Dr. Mack, your staff and faculty did a phenomenal job on the video. Thank you. Continue to do what you're doing. As a former school administrator here at Ridgeview, I see the joy. Yeah. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all that you do. And also, I just want to encourage everyone that it's very important that you go out and vote on Tuesday, November 4th. Mm-hmm. As Gandhi stated, be the change that you would like to see.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Ms. Brill?
I too wanted to thank Dr. Mack. Thank you for your hospitality and it's an awesome video. And better than that, the kids are fantastic. They seem so grounded and focused on the right things, and certainly very eloquent president of the student body. And I want to thank Dr. Fleming for his 20 years of service, his dedication to Richland too, and his never missing a meeting that I ever saw since 2006. And I think it was probably hard to do that and balance a busy dental practice and a family and grandkids and Clemson football and golf and hunting and fishing. But anyway, you're well-rounded, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you, Ms. Brill. Ms. Spector?
I also want to commend Ridgeview for a great performance tonight. The students did an excellent job. 2 great reports tonight, a lot of information, technology, data, and everything. Also, Bill, I want to congratulate you as well. I've had the pleasure of working with Bill for the past 12 years, but even when I came on the board back then, Bill was an outstanding board member. He really was a great mentor for me. I also want to thank the Richland 2 family for being there for me for 12 years. I hope to see you back in November, but I just want to say thank you, and I wish everyone the best of luck.
Thank you, Ms. Spector. Mr. Manning.
Mr. Chair, I want to echo the comments. The students here at Ridgeview and the staff did a fantastic job. I'm very excited that we took a big step forward for Ridgeview today in approving funds for some of the facilities and the items that are on that list that we have to make improvements here. And so I want to thank the board for stepping forward on that. Dr. Fleming, big shoes to fill, 20 years on the board, and whoever comes in behind you. So thank you for your service and your leadership through the time that I've served with you. I know much longer than that in the district. So thank you, and I also hope to return after the upcoming elections in November, and appreciate the opportunity to serve the public and in my role as a board member. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Dr. Fleming.
Well, it's great being at Ridgeview. When I started in 94, Ridgeview was being built, and it opened the following August. So I learned a lot about construction. I learned how to replace a tennis court, how to redo the HVAC system in a building, and how water runs downhill. I learned a whole lot about what goes on in the site and construction. But I'm telling you, this is the leadership has been outstanding over the 19 years you've been open, and it was evident tonight from what I saw. And I can't be more pleased with being here and seeing the students perform. I also want to thank every one of you for being my friend and for supporting me and supporting this school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fleming. Mrs. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would like to echo the same as my fellow board members have stated. Also, I would like to say that Ridgeview High School is the cause of our district going with construction management. Bill, I think you got on at that time.
Yes.
When we had some grave problems with Ridgeview. And I want to take just 1 second, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
A senior person's privilege. A lot of people did not understand why Ridgeview and Northeast do not have their own stadium for their home games. When I explained this to a group of people just recently, they said if the public had been explained that way, a lot of confusion could have been eliminated. When I got on the board, we only had Spring Valley and Northeast. Harry Perone Stadium was already built. So we didn't see the necessity of building 2 large stadiums in our district, not knowing that down the road we were going to start gaining students, 1,000 students plus. And I think we went through that growth spurt for several years, from 1,000 to 900, from 900 to 700, from 700 to 500. So as we go and grow, we will eventually, hopefully, whether I return back on November 4th or not, I hope the boards will look at getting a stadium for all of our high schools so that all schools will have their own home game at their school. And some parents said that was very beneficial for them to understand that, because they just thought we picked and choose who would get a stadium. With that being said, I have enjoyed the meeting tonight. Thank all of you for coming. It's a nice group of people here tonight. And I just have to reiterate, the students were fantastic. Bill, enjoy. I know you're not going to give up on the teeth yet, so you'll still be doing your dentistry. And thank you for all of your support that you've given me for the past 20 plus years. Some of you are too young to be in that group, but those of you that have been there the whole haul, I do certainly appreciate your support throughout my tenure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Dr. Ham?
Well, I too want to commend Ridgeview for the outstanding presentation that was made by your students in the video that we saw as well. And talking about Ridgeview, I do want to also congratulate you on winning $40,000 in the Flip Your Classroom competition from McWaters. And actually, it was Wendy Wimmer, the same person who did the video, who was the person who submitted the winning video. And the Flip the Classroom, that $40,000 goes to redo a classroom and the imagination of the teacher and students, which is really exciting. I want to say kudos to Richland Northeast High School's Hope 365 program. Hope stands for helping other people everywhere, 365 days a year, and they are being honored later this month by the Central Carolina Community Foundation as the winner of the student group in their philanthropy award recipient, which is quite an honor for them. Spring Valley High School participated in the Columbia College Math and Science Day for high school girls, and they swept the competition against 9 other schools, which is really exciting. Jenny Chen placed first in mathematics, written competition, and the team placed first in problem solving and Jeopardy competitions. I'm happy to say that one of our own is in the 2015 African American History Calendar. Longtime Richland 2 Willie Rogers, who many of us knew and loved, is one of the 13 individuals who will be profiled in that calendar. And we held the 2nd annual State of the District breakfast at Richland Northeast High School last week. Our 250 guests included Richland 2's business partners, parent partners, community leaders, and elected officials, as well as administrators, teachers, and students. And we filled them in on the new initiatives here in the district, as well as district priorities. And then I'm also really happy to announce that once again, Richland 2 worked with Richland 1 in Team Richland for the Walk for Life. We haven't gotten the official results, but we think we hit the $50,000 mark again. And our United Way campaign went extraordinarily well this year, and we surpassed $100,000 for the United Way of the Midlands. So we are indeed giving back to the community. I also wanted to say thank you to the board members, all of them, for their service, and in particular, thank you for the service and leadership that was provided by Dr. Fleming. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ham. I also want to echo what everyone has said regarding wishing Dr. Fleming the very best. Thank you, Dr. Fleming, for your service and the time that you've spent committing your time to this board and this district. Thank you very much for that. Sort of like echoing something similar to what Dr. Johnson said, having 2 kids who graduated from Ridgeview and a wife who's been teaching here now for 18 years, happily teaching here at Ridgeview. I experience joy at home too because she's happy when she leaves the school. So thank you, Dr. Mack, for keeping.
She gave you thumbs up on that. Did you see?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mack, for keeping her happy. And I know that she enjoys her work. As a matter of fact, this is the only school she's taught in since we moved back to Columbia from Charleston, and she had an opportunity to move and to leave to go to another school and chose to stay here and will retire from here. So thank you very much for that. Excellent reports tonight, and I'm so happy that they focused on student achievement, which is what we really are all about and why we're here and why we do what we do. I think we need to continue to look even closer, though, at the data, making sure we look at it longitudinally. I think that's important. It's good to get the snapshots and have the percentages, but we really need to make sure we don't lose sight of sort of looking at it longitudinally as we break it down so that we can make sure that we are addressing issues quicker and sooner as they arise. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Dr. Bakutis. I'm excited about the Gear Up grant. I think that's a tremendous opportunity for a lot of help in a lot of our schools in our district, and a lot of students are going to benefit. That single grant is going to make a huge difference, not only in their life while they're in school, but helping them to make some decisions once they get out of high school, which is equally important. Thank you all for being here tonight and for your patience with our meeting. If there are no more issues to be discussed, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And it's been moved and second. Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a great night.